Hey guys, welcome back to Junior Breed Aquatics with Andrew. Today we're going to be talking about how to breed Celestial Pearl Danios as well as Galaxy rasboras. Same fish, different name. We're going to have a couple of weird camera angles, so bear with me on that because I'm going to be showing you guys exactly how I do it. There will be very weird camera angles, just forewarning. And if you like this type of video, make sure you guys subscribe, hit the bell notification, as well as liking the video. It really helps me out and lets me know that you guys appreciate this content. So let's get on to it. Alright, so this is where all the magic happens. It all is happening inside of a single 5-gallon tank. And you might be wondering, how is this all happening in a single 5-gallon tank? Well, I have my 7 breeding adults. I have 2 males and 5 females that are in the actual 5-gallon tank. And then I have on the very far end, which you can see here, a little spawning area that is just a plastic container that has some spawning mops as well as some guppy grass that the adults can come over, spawn in, and then they can go back out to the rest of the tank. And then up top, I have a single container, which you can barely make out up there, that has all of the eggs that I've collected as they are waiting to transition into larva and then into eventually fry and free swimming fry. And then behind that, I have another breeder box that is aerated and has all of the free swimming Celestial Pearl Danio fry inside of it. And then from there, once they are grown up, I'm going to be getting a couple more containers themselves and be putting it in this probably the 40-gallon breeder for them to grow up, and then they'll eventually go out into my 27-gallon cube that you guys have seen. So let's get into it, how I actually collect them and all that is encompassed in that. So first off, I will take this guy, the tray that has all the eggs and spawning moth out of it, and I'll show you guys that in just a second. Then I will take the fry that have hatched out in the plastic container, dump them into the big one, and then take all of the eggs that I find and put them into the current container that's in the tank. And the reason why I'm keeping everything inside the tank is that the water conditions and parameters are all going to be the same. There's not going to be any transitions or differences between them, so there's not going to be any stress on the eggs or larva or fry as they are moving about through the different parts of this system. This gets about a 50% water change a day. I just simply tip it out into the tank and then suck in, and then once it's empty, I fill it back up with new water. It's pretty easy. And then all of these fish are getting fed about 4 or 5 times a day, just with normal prepared foods, no live foods. I should say for the adults, that is. They get occasionally some Walter worms, but usually it's a lot of flake food. The fry themselves, I have a couple of colonies of different microorganisms over here, and they're getting fed that. And then the fry, when they start getting big enough, are getting crushed flakes as well as some Walter worms. So let's show you guys how I actually take out all of the eggs and put them into the next set of containers for them. So the first thing I have to do is empty out this container that has all the free swimming fry that you guys are seeing in it right now. So you can see a couple in this front area up here swimming along, and there's quite a bit in that center ground right there, and you can see them just sort of swimming around. So all I'm going to do is take these guys and dump them into this breeder box that I have right here. So I'm going to do that, and then this container here will become where I put all of the eggs into once I collect them out of the actual container below them. So like I said, there's going to be a couple weird angles, but first I'm going to take out all of the spawning mops that I have in here, place them into here. I'm going to swirl around the water a bit to stir up any eggs that I see, and then I'll put them into here. And then once I've done that, I'm going to take the spawning mops that I put into here, rinse them individually into the water, and then stick them onto the top of this plastic lid so that I've known they've been clean. And then once all of it is clean, I can reassemble the entire apparatus and put it back into the tank. One other thing, I don't have a pipette, so all I've been using is a airline tube, and I just suck up the eggs that I see them and drop them into here. So you'll see that happen, but if I had a pipette, I'd probably be using that instead, but this does the job. I've also found that a light helps you be able to see any of the eggs in here because they're translucent, so you'll be able to easily pick them up and be able to locate them in and amongst the gravel and gunk and detritus and everything that's in here. I'm actually seeing a couple eggs and a couple of fry already, so I'll bring you guys over here and you guys can see what I am seeing. It's been a couple of days since I've last emptied this out because I wanted to make sure I had enough eggs to show you guys, and you can see all those little microorganisms swimming around, which is exactly what the fry will feed off of when they first hatch. So if we go around here a bit, you can actually see a single egg, and there's a fry in the center. I don't know how well you guys will actually be able to see this, but I'll do my best to make sure that you guys can at least see something. There's another egg up top. That little translucent, those little translucent dots right there are all eggs. There's like 4 or 5 there, and there's a couple of fry that I see swimming around as well. So I'll get those out and set you guys back up so you guys can see what I am doing. And if you still haven't need to try this, it's not a huge deal because that'll actually have a lot of microorganisms that the fry can feed on, or the larvae can feed on for the first couple of days when they may not necessarily be eating prepared foods, but they will be eating stuff in their local environment. So it's not the end of the world if you suck some of that stuff up. One other note, I don't do any type of separating or keeping them separate. These guys have been in that tank up there for probably 2 weeks now, and I've just been feeding them, and I've been collecting eggs from them every single day if I wanted to. Some days I don't because I either forget about it, or like today, I was saving up enough eggs to be able to show you guys. So you don't really need to separate these guys out because they're going to spawn repeatedly every single day regardless of whether or not they've been separated from one another. So usually I can get about 15 eggs, 20 eggs, yeah, probably about that, from them daily if I wanted to. And I'm sure that the males or females are coming down into this substrate area and sucking up, or rather eating. Oh, there's an egg right there. Or eating these eggs, but they make so many of them that it's not the end of the world if a couple of them get eaten. So sorry about that. I didn't mean to shine the light in you guys' eyes. Hope that didn't bother you too much. But yeah, I'll get back to it and I'll show. I think I've collected about 15 right now, just from not even shaking out the mops yet. So I'll probably expect like 20, 25. And the last batch that I had in there, I had about 30 of them in there. So you can make a lot of fry very, very quickly. Just feeding them pellets, flakes, and then a little bit of live food, for the adults that is. It's also worth mentioning that I don't do anything to this water. I don't add in any methylene blue, I don't add in any salt, I don't add in any chemicals or anything like that. I just put the eggs into the water that they originally came from, and after a couple days they're large enough to go into the other breeder box, and that's it. I really haven't lost many eggs or had any eggs fungus over that I've seen, so it's not something really to have to worry about in my experience. And then once I think I've gotten all of them out, I just stir it around a bit, because all the eggs will end up in a single corner wherever the flow is stopping, and I'll be able to just suck up the last of them, and then I can start going through these mops and seeing what else I can find. Oh, it's also worth noting that my temperature is about 76 degrees, and my pH is around 7, 6.8, sort of fluctuates depending on how quickly or how often I do water changes, and I do about half a peanut butter jar's worth of water every couple of days, just to keep enough water coming in and out so the nitrates don't accumulate. But there's a couple live plants in there, so it's not the end of the world if I miss a couple days of water changing. And this isn't the most passive method, but I found that this is just kind of relaxing and just fun to do. Just sit here sort of like a little treasure hunt, and you're looking for eggs and many fry that you missed from the last time, and it's just a really relaxing thing just to do. Alright, so that's all that I found currently. So I'm going to start shaking out these guys, putting them on here, and then looking for eggs once all that is done. And the eggs are semi-adhesive, so they're not going to necessarily stick to this if you give them a good old wash. So you can be pretty aggressive with it and not have to really worry about them being damaged or anything like that. And once they're done, you just slowly want to pull them out. Plop them over there, and then grab your next one. So I'll show you guys when all of this is done and how I set it back up. Alright, now that I've gotten all of the eggs out, which I think is about approximately 30-ish, and another like 5 to 7 fry, I'm going to show you guys how I reorient the spawning mops back into the little plastic container I have, because I found that that has been fairly important, either because the fish don't like spawning in it as much, or they can get down to the eggs a lot easier if I don't do it this particular way. So I'll show you guys what I do. What I end up doing is I start interlacing or interweaving these basically. I take the long end here, put it across the middle, take the next one, put it in the next corner and weave it across. Take the next one, so forth until the entire thing is full. And it's full. So once I have all those in place, I take my rock that I have, place it on top of there where all of the long ends of the spawning mops are coming across, and I'll come back here and readjust these a little bit, make sure that they're all in an area, because you want to try to make sure this entire area is covered. So I'll take the guppy grass that I pulled off earlier, I'll plop that into the center here to try to hide some of those bare areas, and then I'll put this guy back into the tank. Here is how it looks. I'll try to get it as least glare as possible. But you can see how all of this is fluffed out, and it's not just kept like that. I'm actually going in here and just fluffing it out so that the fish can get down into there and spawn, but it makes it harder for them to actually get back down there and eat their eggs. And then back there is my Zis breeder box that has all of the fry that I was talking about that are currently growing out in there. So they're all within the same system. And after probably a couple weeks, the age difference will get too large and the older fish will start eating all the younger larvae because they're opportunistic just like the parents are. So that's when I'll either have to add in another cup tray here like this one. So all I do is take this guy that has all of the eggs in it and plop it right there in the water surface. So either I have to get another one of those to fit in here, or I have to get this tank up to temperature and set up and having smaller breeder boxes or smaller containers like that for them to be able to live in. Because in a larger area, if you don't have enough food in there for them, there might be plenty of food for them about it, but if it's not in front of their faces when they're younger, they could starve looking for that food as a young fry. So this is something to be like thinking about when you're spawning them, is that you usually want to start off in smaller containers like how I'm doing here with all my eggs, and then moving into a slightly larger container, and then even a slightly larger container from that, so that they can find the food and not actually starve to death surrounded by their food. I'll be the first one to admit that that is pretty labor intensive just in terms of the time that it takes to come in here, but I really don't have anything else better to do right now, so I can come in here for 15 minutes, do all that stuff, put the eggs where they need to be, and then come back and feed them as they continue to grow up. I think if you had more tanks, which would be a little less involved way, would be taking this container, dumping it all out into another tank, and then forgetting about it. In an already established tank with substrate and other type of living organisms, those fish will grow up well in there, and then you can start supplemental feeding them once you actually start seeing them. But for me, I have this 5-gallon tank, and that's what I'm working with. So if you guys enjoyed this content, like the video, and I'll make sure to bring you guys along as these guys start growing up. And if you guys have any questions for me about how I'm breeding it or what I'm doing here, leave a comment below. This video is meant just to show you guys how I am breeding my Celestial Pearl Danios and how easy it is. It doesn't take a lot of effort or a lot of work. You don't need to do tons of conditioning like I've seen other people saying that you have to do. You just put them in a tank with a couple males, a couple females, making sure that there is a spawning area for them that the eggs can't get eaten in, and that's about it. They'll do their thing, and you'll end up with a bunch of Celestial Pearl Danio that you don't have to go out and buy. So, I'll see you guys around. Thank you guys.